What is up, everyone? Hope all of y'all are having a great day so far. And guess what? I'm about to make it better. Absolutely not true. Today, my people, it's an experiment. I want to see if I can put together a little draft quickies that don't take a whole week to put together and still be proud of my work at the end of it and that is still entertaining for you guys. So I'm going to start with the Chicago Blackhawks draft targets and see if I can make other teams after that, or if I can move this format to scouting reports for lesser known players. So is that a good idea? I think so. So let's go. So we know that they're going to pick somewhere between 1st and 4th overall with their own pick. And we also know that the team at the NHL level is as bad as it gets. There's basically no positional strength whatsoever. The Hawks are basically terrible at every facet of the game. They can't shoot, they can't defend, block shot, defend the slot, prevent rebounds, or stop the puck. They can't win face-off. They give a ton of high danger, medium danger chances. But for some reasons, they don't give the puck away. All this to say that there's not much at the NHL level to help us make a decision. On a more positive note, in the last couple of years, the Hawks built a strong and deep prospect pool, and they got the defense part of it down. They have a strong top four with Blazik, Levshunov, Korchinski, and Rinzel. Now that Jones is gone, it's potentially less strong than it could have been, but I personally like it, especially with Levshunov, who has the tools to become a first pair, first power play type of defenseman, and Rinzel, who could become something like a Jeff Petrie of the good years. After that, they also have some depth with Kaiser, Del Mastro, maybe Nolan, maybe Soderstrom. We'll see. Up front, they are loaded with depth and tons of speed, but Bedard is 5'10", Nazar is 5'10", Moore is 5'11", Lard is 5'11", Kanserov 5'9". The only players with real middle six potential over 6 feet are basically Vanacker and Sacha Boisvert, and the only sure shot first line player in the entire organization is Bedard. So it's pretty obvious that before anything, Chicago needs another star level forward and with some size, if at all possible. Like, let's say they pick 2nd overall and they take James Higgins. I'd be very disappointed with that. So after all this, if they pick 1st overall, I think there's no choice but to go with Matthew Schaefer anyways. I'm not the biggest fan of the best player available at all costs because it's just too vague. Different teams have different best player, and team building has to be taken into consideration at some point. If, for example, Chicago keep drafting smallish forward with dynamic skating, they're just creating redundancy into the organization and not actually building a team to contend. Where I draw the line, though, is when there's a significant gap, and right now I think Schaefer has separated himself, and the upside of a top 5, top 10 D in the entire NHL is what Schaefer brings to the table. In the case that they pick anywhere from 2nd to 4th, their list at this moment should be something like this. At the top of the list, you take Misa and you run. You kind of knock 3, 4, or 5 stones at the same time with this pick. First, you get a player with star upside to play in your top 6. You also get a player with speed who can play and make plays at top speed. You get a player who's not only 6 foot, but he's 6'1", but also super duper competitive and isn't afraid to play a very aggressive style. You get a player to slot alongside Bedard and either play center or at least take the face-off on his strong side, since Bedard can't win a faceoff to save his life, and in the worst case scenario, they get a 2nd line center if he doesn't hit his ceiling. Next, it's Martin, and it's pretty simple with this one. They don't knock as many stones with Martin, but they get their big 6'3", uber talented winger to play alongside Bedard. They get the player who has the brain, the execution, and the skill to follow Bedard on the ice. They get the guy who can create space for his line mates, who can create chaos in a low slot, who digs for pucks, win battles on the board and in front of the net, with tons of character and leadership. They basically get their own lighter version of Slavkovsky, but with more natural skills and sense. The next player, if they pick 4th overall and all of those 3 players were gone, I'd go with Caleb Desnoyers, a playmaking two-way center with size. The star upside sure doesn't shine as bright as with Martin and Misa, but it could be to Bedard similar to what Taze was to Kane. I'm not saying he's as good as what Taze was, because that's some serious shoes to fill, but the same big, strong, talented two-way center to go with the smallish, dynamic offensive star. Also, I don't think that McQueen is really an option here. There's just too much risk. But if the Hawks got a medical report that completely cleared him and that his injury was really lower body and not related to his displaced disc from last year, then I'd probably swing for him. It's also possible that the Hawks prefer Anton Frondel over Desnoyers, for example. I'm not there yet, even though he's been very impressive in the second half of the season, but I find it hard to see a high upside player, even if he brings a lot to the table. And last but not least, they could pull a duck move and go off board and swing for upside and grab somebody like Jake O'Brien. The Hawks organization doesn't really strike me as risk takers. They seem to like their less risky, high floor players. And O'Brien is basically exactly the opposite of that. But if there's one player outside of the big names who might have star power or first line upside, it's O'Brien. But they'd get a 6'2" center who's possibly the best passer in the draft. It's not a sure thing, but there's a lot of runway with O'Brien, and the Hawks would end up with a right shot center who's going to play at 6'2", 6'3", with skills and hockey sense for days. It's a bit too early to predict the targets with their second first-round pick because we don't really know where it's going to be, and there's still 3 months and a half of the second half of the first round to shape up. But if I have to guess or choose right now, I'd probably swing for a player like Jacob Izwozniak and hope he finds consistency in his game, or Vaclav Nestrezil, who's a physical specimen who needs to put it all together, but there's some serious flash of offense over his overwhelming physicality. There's also players like Jack Murtagh, who is heavy, works hard, good feet, and a heavy shot. And personally, I think I like Shane Van Zaghe more than most, but I'd consider him with a late first-round pick for the Hawks to bring some physicality into the mix. So there you go. That was not as short as I wanted it to be. I want to keep those videos 3-4 minutes at the top, so I'll work on making them shorter if this is a style of video that you guys enjoy. But anyways, please take the time to like and subscribe if you like this type of video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.